Folks, welcome. This is the midterm edition of Nothing to Declare. Some pretty exciting stuff happening right now. We are monitoring essentially the crowds right now. Just record epic crowds that are going on, that are happening. I am Major Burdock. Phil has been working some crazy schedules, and he'll be in later. I know that we've all been working really hard to get some midterms news out to you, and there's tons to report. But in the meantime, if you see some live footage popping up here, that is courtesy of RSBN. We've got I've reached out to them, but we're not going to be putting audio on, and I'm encouraging everyone who is looking at who is getting the, I mean, if you're listening to this show, obviously you're probably familiar with RSBN, Right Side Broadcasting Network. They've been doing an incredible job since 2016. They go to every single rally, and they pan the crowds and walk the lines and interview everyone that are going in. It's the best polling you can get. You're talking about nowhere in history have you seen such a movement, a great concentration of absolutely dedicated voters. And for Donald Trump to be getting the turnout, you're talking about tens of thousands of people turning out at these venues, 2, sometimes 3 a day, for a midterm. It's insane. The only thing the Democrats are doing right now is spending ridiculous amounts of money. So yeah, on the screen you just saw, that's RSBN. The rally isn't going to start. It's starting, but they're going to be panning around, and they're doing a great job. And I'm going to pitch them. I know this is a little awkward, but if you go to rsbnetwork.com, these guys, they get shut down. What you're seeing is a broadcast of YouTube right now, and we'll clip back and forth. We don't want to keep it on too long, so that they know that we're not reselling. We're actually pitching these guys. But here's what they do. You can see they're panning through all the crowds, and you can see this is a midterm election crowd. This is in Indiana here, and it's incredible what's happening right now with the number of people that are showing up. If you all saw the rally that was in Texas a while back, that entire stadium was filled, and you had tens of thousands of people out in the parking lot grilling, doing what Texans do, ribs and whatever you need to do with your grilling, not barbecuing, grilling. So you got your brisket and your beer and your dogs, and a lot of people are drinking some Shiner Bock there. We have a few, and again, I think we should probably, I don't know if you want me in the corner on this. I don't know if we want to focus on this the whole time, because if we're a live channel, we don't want RSBN to get the wrong idea. So I'm suggesting that everyone go over, because YouTube is constantly banning these guys, and their excuse of it, and this is the most ridiculous thing. It's something you have to keep an eye on for live broadcasts, but what they're doing is incredibly stupid, almost impossible. If you're broadcasting over YouTube, something like this, in the background you're going to pick up music, and it's part of some of the music is part of the campaign for these candidates and Donald Trump. And if I guess 8 seconds or 10 seconds of this music is picked up, YouTube is just blacking out this entire channel. And so as a result, they're not making the revenue. And of course, they've basically shut down. Anyone with this many views at RSBN, if you look later on, of course, the crowd's just getting started here. The president's going to speak in probably an hour. But anyone that is going in and looking at this and seeing the crowds and the interest and seeing how blatant it is for YouTube to be blacking this stuff out and to be making sure that these people don't get paid. And these folks are, I mean, they've been doing this since 2016. And I think they do an incredible job, and everyone should be certainly supporting Right Side Broadcasting Network. I think it would be great for them to be in the press pool, but we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, you know, these guys are just at it. So if you go to rsbnnetwork.com, it's going to go right to their YouTube channel right now. But one thing you can do is you'll see in YouTube their whatever their speed donation is or whatever it is, super donate, and you'll see a bunch of people donating. It's best to pay these folks via PayPal, because this is something that not only is YouTube not giving these people a fair shake, but they're taking 30% of their money, all of their donations is going into the pockets of YouTube right now. And you can see, if you go in there, you can see how much these people are getting. Now, you'll see the super chat pop up and people donating later, but they're getting tons of donations, and YouTube is taking 30%. So when this rally is over, I'd recommend going back to rsbnetwork.com and donating via PayPal, or you can just send them a check, okay? I think these folks are down in Alabama. They're really nice people, and they deserve to get a little bit of money and support, considering they're being just totally hacked away by all of the, you know, and you should see what they're doing to all of the other people that are even closely affiliated with them. So I think that it's also important, if you're wanting to support somebody, I noticed, and this is really interesting, and I think, again, May, if we could pull off of that, we need to pull off of the RSBN feed. I just want to show people what it's there. I don't want to rebroadcast their stuff because I don't specifically have permission to do it. So if we could go back to a studio shot, yeah, that's better. Just to see that I didn't want to broadcast their entire feed, because it's we don't have explicit permission to do it. I'm actually pushing. I'm wanting to let people know that's the rally that's going on in Indiana right now, and that's the best way to watch it. So we'll be monitoring that one. That should be right towards the end of the show that Trump is going to be coming on. You're going to see a bunch of other people. It is pretty late. It's 10 o'clock Eastern right now. So we'll be. This guy, he's a maniac. I mean, he went to Montana twice last week. That's pretty insane. So here are our predictions. Now, we're going to have some more predictions coming out. I've got some audio interviews that I've already done with Scott Ruby. Unfortunately, the results of that, it was pretty much a test interview. And so we needed to make sure to understand that we weren't going to be doxing or things like that. But I can report what happened. I'm not able to play the interview with you, but his predictions, and I just got off the phone with him, his predictions haven't changed since I talked to him 4 days ago. He's expecting +3 in the Senate, and who knows in the House. It's a wash. A lot of people are saying that the House is it's leaning left and it's going to be split. A lot of neutral polls are saying that it's up in the air, and in fact, actually, that it's leaning towards the Democrats. But the one thing people have to remember, and they didn't take into account, obviously, in 2016, is one simple fact, is that Republicans are less willing to tell people who they're voting for. So apparently it's in the nature of liberals to want to go out and declare they're easier to poll, and for good reason, because of the simple amount of pressure. I think that a lot of this is caused by themselves being so aggressive and angry in public towards Republicans. So naturally, Republicans are going to be leery about anyone they don't know asking their political opinions. Now, the reason this matters is because when you go out and start taking polls and you start seeing, hey, listen, look at what happened in 2016. All the polls were wrong. Why is that? And one thing keeps coming up is that Republicans are less willing to tell people who they vote for, who they support. And people who are truly undecided are almost unlikely, less likely than not, to tell you who they voted for, and probably will never. So there are a lot of people that don't, who just, as a matter of practice, don't vocally support or don't express the fact that they voted for Trump, and that seems to be. I mean, we saw that in 2016. So that needs to be factored in when you take a look at these polls. It's not that you can't factor that in. They're simply going out and polling, and you have to use a little intuition. I mean, especially considering how wrong those polls were in 2016. I think people have kind of gotten around to understanding that they won't have a business in polling if they're consistently wrong. You hire pollsters because of their accuracy. And of course, everybody went out the door in 2016. I would say the only people that I met were, in fact, actually Scott Ruby, who is our pollster. He's our analyst, and he's going to be coming on here in a bit. I'll be doing some last-minute interviews with him, and then you'll be able to see the article at thegoldwater.com on what his predictions are. And it doesn't sound like they're going to be changing much, but we'll see what the exit polls. We'll see what's happening, and then of course we'll be covering, possibly doing a live show on during that period of time, which would be broadcast just from my phone. I'll probably just do a Periscope or something like that, depending, because of, certainly because the hours here, we don't know. There are states that are going to be up. Certainly you can already call it. But one interesting thing, we were talking about donating to people, and one thing that I saw was, and I always know that I'm getting email from James O'Keefe because it comes up in my gray mail. It just pops up whenever I have gray mail. I know, I might as well just label the folder Project Veritas. That's something that is a really vicious thing for people to do. I've used to be involved in emailing, and I know quite a bit about how people work with blacklisting people and all of that, but Project Veritas is blacklisted, so they rely on email quite a bit, and because they'll send you an email before they release something, before they release one of their new videos. So what happens is that you get these emails, and he says, listen, this is coming out, and then you have access to the video before he formally releases it. And that gives the press, like us, it gives us a little bit of time to do a write-up on it and to really get it out and point the traffic to Project Veritas and God forbid, YouTube, to see what's going on. Now, if you guys have followed Project Veritas, he's just been going nuts during the midterms. I mean, he's caught people from Wisconsin to Arizona. Arizona was fascinating because these people it's as if there is no candidate. It is what can we say to these people to win? That's it. There is no baseline belief. There is nothing to believe in with a lot of these left candidates. And you've also got Beto, who is neck deep in admitting that, the campaigns, a lot of these people in Arizona and Beto are getting money from the same people that are funding these caravans, okay? And not only that, but a candidate down in this was in Arizona, their crew, one of their campaign coordinators, was talking about how they were using campaign funds to actually not just feed, but transport these illegal aliens that are showing up, Hondurans and Guatemalans, that are showing up on this side of the border, or I should say on the U.S. side of the border, and helping them transport and using vans that have been leased with campaign money. So they're using campaign financing in not only an illegal way, I mean, not only in a way that's totally inappropriate as far as the FEC is concerned, the Elections Commission, but in a way that is aiding and abetting criminals. It's insane what these folks are doing, and all of this is on tape. This isn't rumor. This isn't a conspiracy. The tape is right there. The video is right there. So what I found interesting is that my mailbox is lighting up with a bunch of James O'Keefe stuff, and he's saying, "Hey, listen, we're covering voter fraud." Okay. Now you can read into it any way you want, but he's asking. This was, I think, the 5th email that I've received. And he normally doesn't do it that much, but he's saying that he's basically needing a lot of money right now to cover voter fraud. Now, there's only one way to look at this, folks, is that he has a whole army of people with hidden cameras that are working behind the polls, okay? So all of the people that are volunteering, the people that are part of the Election Commission, part of the process, to keep an eye, their job is to make sure there's no, to facilitate voting and to make sure there's no voter fraud. If James O'Keefe is asking for money, that much money, that, you know, right now, that means he's got a whole army of folks that are filming. And this is one thing that we did in the 2016 elections, which I thought was a whole group of people actually ended up getting together and faxing the election headquarters of a number of different polling stations that have notoriously, we identified the ones that had the worst fraud. And of course, the worst fraud is in Democrat controlled areas where you need to, there's pivotal areas where they need to count, they need to. And some areas they just do it because they feel like they have to, even though their candidate has won. They're committing voter fraud. It really is that way, and it's, who would be surprised? Okay, we've got a completely new generation of progressive Democrats. I don't know what you want to call them, but liars. If they're going to tactics as such as accusing Kavanaugh of rape, okay. And by the way, folks, did you get our reporting on this? 2 of the women, 2, not 1, but 2 of the women that came forward and accused Kavanaugh of rape have now come forward and said, no, they were put up to it and they never even met the man. Okay? Let me repeat that. 2 of the women, okay, of this whole slew of women that came up have come forward and said they were put up to it and never even met the guy. All right? Now, where is the outrage? This is something that is terrible for any rape victim, because you've got women who are purporting to be rape victims for political reasons, and you've got the left wholeheartedly supporting them. Do we see some irony here, folks? I mean, what is going on? By the way, Mug Root Beer is our, if you've seen some of our earlier shows, we're drinking Mug Root Beer for all the folks in the United States. Yeah, we're sponsoring Mug Root Beer, good American beverage. Hopefully you guys are getting out voting. I mean, wouldn't it be fun to just see their faces again? I want to see that, oh, you know, that crazy liberal screaming. I want to see it. So, yeah, really important to get out and vote. I mean, if anything, you want to do it for that. Okay, obviously there's some more important issues at stake, but there's a lot of fun stuff too. And it's good to mix in with the NPCs as well. So yeah, we can put this on HN if we want, and yeah, no problem whatsoever. Those of you who are just joining us on Twitch, the Goldwater is a kind of a sister network. We're the news division of 8chan. We're affiliated in a good way. So certainly we can put this on 8chan. So now, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a surprising election. I think that what we may see is quite a bit of voter fraud, because if they're doing the Kavanaugh bit, what else are they willing to do? There's already been some videos out of people that have been gone, where early voting is available, and people have gone to polling stations. And you know what? These accounting errors always seem to be in the favor of the Democrats. And there's no wonder behind it. I mean, this is okay. Is it a conspiracy? Or why is it machines make mistakes because they're programmed by humans and they're manufactured by humans. They make mistakes. But why is it that when these are always shown, and it's not because of the news that I read all the way across the board. So if there's a liberal group out there that has video of their voters going in and saying, hey, listen, then here's video of somebody pressing one candidate and it defaults to you cannot vote Republican. You have to vote for the Democrat. It's crazy. You press the button for red, it turns blue. So that obviously somebody needs to take a look into that. That whole area needs to be suspect. I mean, you have to take a look at who manufactured the machines, who installed them, what network they're on. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that needs to, people have to be very careful about it. And I think that we got a warning of that early, because I think if you remember, it was about a month ago, Trump tweeted, and this was just out of the blue. This was nothing in the news. This wasn't following this video. That video came out since. He just tweeted out of the blue, anyone committing voter fraud at all is going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We're going to hunt you down and prosecute you. And that just was completely out of the blue. So that kind of tells me that he had reports early on, as of a month ago, that voter fraud was already starting to get geared up. And they probably already have initiated an investigation. Probably that day, the day of that tweet, is probably when he initiated another investigation into what's happening here. Voter fraud is typically a Democrat thing. That historically, if there's been voter fraud, 9 times out of 10, a Democrat's been involved. That's not to say Republicans aren't, but it just seems to be their thing. Doing a Kavanaugh is their thing. Cheating, lying is their thing. So you don't be surprised that, and paying thousands of people to come up from Guatemala and Honduras is their thing. That's what they're doing. This isn't a spontaneous thing. Those people are paid. We have video of them getting paid, cash in hand. It's not a coincidence that they're arriving at the border just in time for the midterms. It's not a coincidence that they're going through Mexico. Mexicans are saying, hey, we have jobs. Do you guys want a job and a place to stay? Nope, we've got something else in mind. So they're not there for a job. They're getting paid to do this. And yes, folks, the military is at the border. Just yesterday, there was a video that was released, and this was from the Mexican side of the border. There was some people that were waiting to get through. Pretty intimidating stuff. You have a Black Hawk helicopter come down, and this guy just, whoom, comes down, and a bunch of soldiers drop off of it, and he's off again. I mean, that whole operation took all of 10 seconds for him to drop down eight military guards there, full gear. I don't know what you call it. I mean, like a recon troop or something. I mean, but yeah, those people are getting dropped off there. And now that Trump has said that we're not going to be doing any live firing, but man, you know what? I mean, how else can you view this? You've got a group of people from another country who are en masse, who hate the United States, overtly hate the United States. They hate Trump. They hate the flag. They're burning the flag. Now, how does this make any sense to you? Have you seen this? We wrote an article on this, I think this was 2 weeks ago, where These Hondurans are burnt. They have a swastika drawn on the U.S. flag, and they're burning it, burning the United States flag, and yet they're hell-bent on getting here. They're insulting our president-in-chief. They're hell-bent on getting here. They're insistent on crossing the border illegally, and the very first act that they commit on U.S. soil is a crime. Tell me, folks, that there's not something wrong with that. Thousands and thousands of people doing that. I submit to you that that is a clear and present danger to the sovereign power of the United States. It should be considered an invading foreign force, and the president, in that particular case, if it has to do with national security, he doesn't have to ask the House. He doesn't have to have the Senate come in. He can actually declare war on this group of people. So keep it up. And the people that are financing them, mind you. So keep it up. Keep it up. I mean, that's not American. That is not how you become an American. I would be, if my father came to this country and I was born and he was one of those people, I'd be ashamed to be an American. I would be ashamed to have my citizenship that way. There's nothing proud about that. There's nothing ethical about that. There's nothing American about that. Man, it's a terrible day. It is a terrible day when this type of behavior is encouraged, and I'm sorry, but man, that day has already passed. We're in the middle of it right now, folks. It's being celebrated. It's being financed. Absolutely insane. Well, let's go through some of the news here. We do have, of course, full force in the media. You can always expect right the day something outrageous for the media to do, and that we know about, that's overt. They kind of get a pass on this one because we don't have time to argue how outrageous it is. But there's an ad involving immigration, exactly what I've talked about. And it's been put into a very nice ad that Donald Trump has put forward. And it's, massive amounts of money. Agreements were made to air the ad. Of course, they're never going to agree to accept, they're not going to accept money, sign a contract, and run the ad. And they ran the ad without viewing it. All of the executives at Fox and CBS have viewed this. And then, of course, Facebook has to jump in because Facebook, they can ban everything. That's what they're good at. So Facebook now is banned showing this ad. And in fact, actually, maybe I should find it and we should show it. In fact, that's actually, we'll do that here in a second. Let's see if we've got a copy of it in this article. If you go to thegoldwater.com, we just posted this article. The headline is NBC, Facebook, and Fox censor President Trump's ad one day before midterm elections. So we'll get a copy of this ad and maybe play it for you. Let me just see if I'll see if I can't find it for you. It should be in here somewhere. Yeah. Well, it's a really long article, but we'll see if we can't find it for you and play it. But this is insane, folks. These people accepted money. They viewed the ad. They agreed to the terms. They signed the contract. And now, because because people complain, well, then guess what? Here we go. You've got this issue. And it's insane. It really is. I can't understand why now they need to pull it. I mean, who's in charge? Who is in charge? Someone, Zuckerberg's wife is upset that she's watching NBC or CBS and happens to see this ad? Who's in charge? Who's making the phone call to have network executives breach a contract? A multi-million-dollar contract. Those ads aren't cheap, especially nowadays because they're running all over the place prime time. So incredible. And then, of course, Facebook. Man, do we want to talk about those guys? Are just insane. It's, you know, if you're gonna, doesn't it make sense? I'm gonna pitch something to you guys here. Tell me if this doesn't make more sense. I mean, because right now the internet is not the way that it was created. It's a censorship machine, okay? So instead of us having to fight against these people who have billions and billions of dollars, why wouldn't it be easy? Because for the sake of, you know, their reason for censorship is because this is hate and people are so sensitive. And if you've got this group of people that are so sensitive towards what they declare and define, and mind you, it's their definition, ours doesn't matter. If this group of people that is causing all of this censorship, they're sensitive, they're so sensitive that there's certain things that they can't see. Wouldn't it make sense, instead of censoring the world to their terms, wouldn't it make sense to do what we do with pornography? Okay, we do have adult filters. And most of the time, if you put an adult filter on and you type something in, the way the technology works now, you're not going to see an image. And it's getting better to the point where those things are in place. I mean, Google is great at it. Google, I mean, they're masters at it, okay? And that should be a free service that they offer these people, this group of people who are so offended by, I mean, by me right now. They're offended by it. They probably think I should be, because, man, this is offensive. This is, you know, what I'm saying is offensive. We need to shut him up. Well, if you want, put me in that filter, okay? Put me over here in that filter, along with everybody about, you know, RSBN, everyone. Put everyone in that filter for these special people. Oh, and make it a default. Make it a default. So whenever you download a new version of Google, that by default you search in the happy liberal world. But the rest of the time, if you unclick that, then hey, there's the internet. There's the rest of it. There's the uncensored part of it. And in that world, it's pretty simple. We're forced to put up a terms of service policy, which is ridiculous, following this mass shooting in Gab, getting banned. Incredible what happened there. But if you want to see people like us, and if you don't want to, don't do anything. Stay in your world. If you want to see it, uncheck that box, okay? If you want to see porn, come over. If you want to see other news that's not glossed over, uncheck that box. That's the way the internet should be. That's the way it's not the responsibility of the few to censor all. If they're a super hypersensitive group of people, I mean, do them a favor. I mean, that's actually a service you might want to charge people for, but I would say, considering their beliefs, the technology is there, and you know, they should have that in place. And the rest of it, if you break the law, then you got problems on the internet, okay? I mean, that's the only other concern. Not if you offend somebody. If you don't want to get offended, don't go to places that you're going to get offended at, you know? If you don't want to see naked women, don't go to a strip club, okay? I mean, if you don't want to hear black jokes, don't walk into somebody's house while they're watching reruns, of Richard Pryor's or Eddie Murphy. I mean, if you're so super sensitive, walk out of the room. Go back into your safe space. But the world does not revolve around these people and what they consider to be offensive. And businesses are failing because of this. There are people who have been on YouTube for years and made a living on YouTube for years, promoting outdoor sports and guns, and I mean, some great entertaining people, folks at Demolition Ranch, 22 Plinkster, Hickok 45, all these guys are great. I mean, you're learning so much about guns, what they can do, what they can't do, all the new guns that are coming out, the history of guns, how they work, And not only that, but if you look and watch these channels, they're absolutely promoting gun safety. They're not doing anything that is outrageous. Now, there's some channels out there that are a little bit crazy, like FPS Russia was, I don't know, if you don't want to do a lot of stuff, but those guys have their own issues. They have ATF issues and, you know, some other stuff that was kind of weird. So those guys are off the map right now. But YouTube demonetized all of those people. They were making a great living. They had more followers than your average person. And, you know, like I think Demolition Ranch has like 8 million people right now. Man, it's just Hickok 45, 22 Plankster. A lot of these gun guys, what happened though is that you would think because they're all different guys in the same area, technically they would be competing for viewership. And what happened when YouTube banned them or demonetized them, basically disallowed them to make any money off, because what, they weren't doing anything different. It's because YouTube decided that it was a good opportunity for them to tell people that they don't like guns. Nothing had changed. These people weren't doing anything different. It was YouTube deciding that they don't like guns and therefore you cannot make money having guns on a show, which is just ridiculous. So what happened as a result? What we saw is that these guys, Hickok 45 and Plankster 22 Plankster and Demolition Ranch and a lot of the other guys that are out there, okay, that they got grouped and they all got banned. So what do you expect is going to happen? They're not going to change. I mean, they don't like it, but they're not going to stop shooting. If anything, they're going to solidify. And so now what happened is that you have the story behind this is that Demolition Ranch, which was, and he has a couple other channels. He's got a channel called Off the Ranch, and he's got another hunting channel as well, which all of it's really good, very entertaining stuff. And so what he did as a result of this is he started a company called Bunker Branding. And so the idea is that, well, we could just make money off of merchandising. And not only that, but set up our own. I mean, these guys make their own stuff. They've got embroidering machines, and they do all of their, they've got their warehouses, they do their shipping, and it's a group of these guys that are like-minded, and it's a merchandising company, a branding company. And so as a result, a business was born. And I wish those guys the best. I mean, absolutely the best success. They deserve it. They've been working really hard, and it's great that we're able to still see it. We still have to watch it on YouTube, but they're able to continue making and make a living. You know, it's important. So having these media companies, which YouTube is, shut people down because they don't like it, having Fox and CBS and NBC shut down an ad that they agreed to in a multi-million-dollar contract to run just because it's the day before midterms. We don't want anyone to see that because it's the truth. It's outrageous what's happening right now. Absolutely outrageous. I think that we'll look back, and this is a very, while politically there's a strife, economically what our president is doing, what Donald Trump is doing is right for the country. Whether you agree with the guy's narcissistic attitude, the fact that he's an egomaniac, I totally agree with you, okay? But we didn't hire him for that. We didn't hire him for his attitude. Maybe some of us voted for him because of it, but that's just, if you're offended by it, you got to keep in mind that he goes to work every day, and you want the best person for the job, not the prettiest Trudeau, okay? Or because somebody's black, all right? Yes, Obama, I'm talking about you. Failure. Absolute failure. I mean, a lot of the work that this president's having to do is mopping up this mess. Look at Iran right now. Just went into place today. Sanctions, and it's on the anniversary, by the way, of a hostage situation in Iran. So we've got a little history It's no coincidence that this happened today. Actually, it wasn't supposed to be today, because that's a pretty bad thing to be happening. You don't want to distract people right now, but there's a good significance. These people have dates are very important to these folks, and just take a. We'll get into Iran. We'll get into Iran later, but I just need to say the dates on this are incredibly important. Very, very important to take a look at the dates on this. There's a lot of numerology going on here, and the anniversaries are very important. I mean, a lot of people were wondering why this was happening. There's all of this political news, and then there's this. This is not a distraction. This is not good. It's not good for Republicans to have this out right now, because it's not something everybody. I mean, you're talking about war. You're talking about people who are allies with North Korea, and North Korea does possess nuclear weapons, folks. So, I mean, everybody is saying, well, Iran, they don't have nuclear weapons yet. How long have they been friends with North Korea? Okay, who does? Okay, a lot of these people have some pretty nefarious shipping habits, hence embargoes. They have a history. They've got a whole network of people that get around embargoes. So you're telling me, come on, getting one from point A to point B, or one from that Iran buys and getting shipped, it's like, you could get it shipped anywhere. So it's probably better, you don't want one on Iranian soil. You want wherever Iran wants to send it, you want to ship it over there or close to it. So that's the real problem. That's the real threat. That's what's happening right now. And how on earth John Kerry and the Clinton ilk and the Obama folks can send these guys plane loads of cash and say, just don't do it. Don't do it. We'll pay you. And the guys are like, yeah, fill up a jet with cash. Keep it coming. And they're laughing. Do you know how many planes they bought? Billions of dollars. And they didn't buy American planes. They bought all Airbus. Their first order were a bunch of planes. Now, these are guys that shouldn't be having planes in the first place. I mean, especially considering the history. I know that's a bad comment, but that's a joke, okay, folks? The first thing that they do is buy all of these planes, and none of them are U.S. So we just paid billions and billions of dollars to somebody to buy all of this stuff. And then, of course, God knows where the rest of that money is going. Possibly to North Korea to buy a nuke. I mean, it's probably, doesn't that make sense? Here we are trying to ban them from having their nuclear weapons program, and in order to do it, pay them billions of dollars, and their greatest ally is one that does have nukes. Wouldn't it make sense for them to, hey, you're going to give us, well, let's set aside $100 million instead of building one. We can just buy one. How about that? Did that ever occur to anyone at the State Department? I mean, my Lord, what are these people thinking? So I guarantee you there is a very good reason for the date and the reason for these trade embargoes that are happening today, just went into effect. So, and not, it's not anything having to do with midterms. I mean, that's the last thing we need, is to be distracted by this. So getting back over, we can take a look and see if, yeah, these crowds are still going off in Indiana. Record crowds. It's amazing what's happening. I mean, this is just insane. And the speeches are incredible. They're really, really poignant. But you'll notice that when he comes on, he'll bring in the governor, he'll bring in the guy, the senator that's up, the seats that are up there. Their speeches are really brief and to the point. I mean, this is really an event about keeping momentum is what this is about. And yeah, I mean, I don't think that anyone's running right now that has any major scandals. There are probably some candidates that could be better, that have, kind of a questionable voting record, or maybe kind of some unsavory histories, or maybe don't have the experience, business experience needed. But we don't have anybody that's on the ticket even close to like an Ocasio-Cortez, some little lunatic child who is in a socialist dream world. So nothing too bad on the ticket right now. We will be, I'll get off the phone and off the show here and on the phone with Scott Ruby right after the show. It's getting, he's over in Montana right now. And we'll see what's happening there. He's good. He's really good. This guy, he calls it. I mean, he can really get down to states. And but I think that you really need to take these polls. I mean, we learned something. We learned, I mean, the great way. I mean, what a great way to learn that the polls are not correct. I had a feeling, and I knew on Thursday, the Thursday before the election, this isn't bragging, but I mean, I do have an entire history of communication since then. All of, right before the election in 2016, people are, the obvious question is, who do you think is going to win? And I explained my reasoning behind it. And it's the same reasoning that I'm telling you that the House, we're definitely going to have the Senate by probably 3 seats. But the House, I would not give that away yet. And one of the reasons is because of this phenomenon that, well, a lot of people will not tell you. Now, if people don't tell you what they're voting, and you're after a group of folks, the undecided go way up, and that means the proportion of people who are falling into the category of undecided, if the nature of undecidedness happens to be the preponderance of people are voting Republican, then those polls are going to be off. They're certainly going to be off. Let's just hope that they're off enough with regard to some of these House seats that we don't have, that we do have another 2016. I know that the folks that I spent that evening with are getting together again. And hopefully that, I mean, I think it's great for people to have such midterms. Used to be not that big of a deal. I mean, you never saw crowds like this. You never saw people freaking out the way they are right now. Sending, going to the length of the amount of money, but, certainly the most expensive midterm ever, the amount of money on both sides. That's, you can look at it so many different ways. I look at it as, hey, well, at least people are spending money. It's somehow getting into the economy. Now, whether or not it has to go through Soros to some sleazy campaign manager and then to Whole Foods for, non-GMO organic granola, at least the money is still getting spent. So that's a good thing. It's sad that it has to be spent in that way. I think it's sad that I think that it's scary when it's being spent outside of the United States, and at the same time the Democrats are saying, well, collusion with a foreign country is against the law, and it's like, wait a minute, your guys are funding something that's obviously political, but this is serious. This is an invading force that you're financing to breach a border, an international border, and they're burning our flags and saying death to the president. I mean, how can that? I mean, it's only a period of time before these people are going to put on uniforms and have weapons, okay? Their weapons are themselves right now. And the weapon is sympathy. And you're telling me that these people are the ones that we want in our country? Out of all of the people that are standing in line right now, that are hoping to get in, that are hoping to get a green card, that are hoping to get an H-1B visa, that have been standing in line paying these fees, and believe me, my ex-wife we had to go through that whole process, okay, the entire process, and it takes a long time, and it's not cheap. But you do it, and when you're a citizen, okay, when you're standing up and you are pledging before you get your citizenship, you have to pledge allegiance to the United States of America and mean it. Okay? Now, how can you pledge allegiance? That's how it's done. That's how you become a U.S. citizen. You don't do it by spray painting the flag with a swastika and burning it and urinating all over our national memorials. You don't do it by getting paid to do it. You don't do it by having your first act on U.S. soil be a crime. That's not how you become a U.S. citizen. That's not what a proud American is. And it doesn't matter if you're Guatemalan, Honduran, El Salvadorian, Chinese, what? If you want to swim over from Fiji, okay? I mean, come on. Doesn't matter. There's a legal way to do it. They're not doing it. They're not refugees, folks. They're paid actors. And their bonus is citizenship. It's not something that should be bartered or sold. Uncertain, because, I'll take that back. Citizenship can be sold. And there are exceptions for it. And I think in some cases it's a good idea. There are some countries that do it. And it creates a lot of money. Canada does it. We do it to a certain extent. There are certain countries that require a certain amount of investment that in certain economic times, they're selling passports. And apparently that, since the tech boom, a lot of the new elite rich billionaires, one of their things is, and New Zealand is a coveted passport, but apparently these people are collecting passports as kind of a status symbol, and they're paying millions of dollars for it. So countries are saying, well, gee, that's one guy and he's going to pay $2 million. Okay, that's fine. It's not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions that we're going to have to pay to be here and or deport or worry about tracking down or house in tent cities or, have to worry about prosecuting and deporting and tracking and deporting and catching and releasing. And, you got one guy that's giving money. Sure, you can sell your citizenship. Why not? If a rich guy wants a U.S. passport and he's not a terrorist, he's just collecting, and you've done a background check and he really genuinely sell it, put it up for bid, have a bidding war, starting bid $10 million. Come on, why not? It's one dude. Okay, think of how many refugees or how many illegal aliens you could catch with $10 million. How about that? So how many chemical landmines can you buy for $10 million? Now we're getting the deep, dark stuff, folks. I have a conversation with a lot of people, and had one recently where, what's your opinion? I say, try everything. You try everything, okay? I even think that you might want to pay these people to go away, okay? Why not? You try that in California, okay? Set up a booth and say, hey, come here. We'll give you money not to come into the country. But here's the catch. It's coming directly out of the money that we're sending Mexico every month. So we'll just let Mexico know, and that problem might want to solve itself pretty quick because that's like $186 million that we send them in aid. So if we're deducting that and giving that money directly to Mexican citizens that are purporting, they're refugees, they're the people that need it, so we're paying them to go away. The Mexicans are going to say, no, don't give those people money, give us corrupt officials money. And the problem will be, obviously, it'll be evident, you'll be able to see it very clearly, that no, number one, why are people wanting to leave your country? Because, man, it's corrupt, okay? And, wow, it's not only that, but it's being controlled, a lot of these areas, and of course the border area, by the cartels, okay? These people run a lot of Mexico. And these people, you don't cross the border without paying the cartel. That's their zone. So It's a business that some very evil people are involved in. And oh, don't use the word evil. Don't use the word evil. I mean, what, there's no such thing as an evil Mexican? Try this out, folks. Matamoros, Mexico, a border town. Thousands of missing people, a lot of them women. We got two examples. I guess we've got time for this. So let me tell you what happens at the border here, folks. Let's start with this one, because I said evil. Back in I think it was 98, in the late 90s. I mean, there's always been people missing. I mean, people have been going missing there for a very, very long time. And it turns out that one of these people that went missing was the son of a wealthy guy on the U.S. border, on the U.S. side of things. And he was traveling over with his friends, and he happened to go into the wrong place where one of these creeped out, homosexual, devil worshiping, this is true, okay? All of these things are true. You can be Mexican and homosexual and worship the devil, and it can all be true, okay? And you can be sitting in a bar and see a young, pretty boy walk in and decide that you want to do what you want to him, and you happen to be high up in a drug cartel. So that's what happened. That's how all of this was discovered, was because he was the son of somebody who was very important in the United States. Wealthy man. So the son goes missing, the dad wants to track him down, and of course it gets tracked down, and guess where it leads, okay? It leads into, I mean, the description of this was just horrible. And the CENTAC people, the people who are charged with, they're DEA folks, they're government folks. They're not exactly, I mean, they're basically Department of Justice general type of people who were brought in to bring down the leaders. They go after the heads. They don't go after the dealers. They go after the how they can bring down the heads of these cartels. So the CENTAC guys ended up showing up there, and I read an account of one of these guys after he retired of what he saw in Matamoros, and this is incredible. This is just, it was this remote farm, this area that was out here, and they would bring in all of these people, and it was no joke, it's no secret that these cartel leaders, certain cartel leaders, but a lot of them are involved in satanic worship. Okay, this is not a conspiracy theory. There are photographs. There are people that will tell you that they are involved in the worship of the devil. The worship they're going through human sacrifices is what they're doing. Torture, human sacrifices, rape. Okay, not always in that order, folks, but as some form of ceremony. Hundreds of people at this, including the body of this young man, were found at the bottom of this well. But inside this area, which is kind of this big ranch outside of Matamoros, Mexico, was just mayhem. It was a church of absolute evil. People in every single stage of not only decomposition, but people who were freshly dead, people who were dying, people who were in the state of torture, and people who were just picked up and were caged, all in this same room, so that you can imagine these people saw and knew everything that was happening, what was going to happen to them, these caged people. And to have this happen is just the most despicable thing. So to say that that doesn't happen along the border and these people are in control of it, think twice about who's getting paid for this. You don't cross the Mexican border without paying these people, folks. So check it out. you're paying some pretty awful people, and if you need to do that to make a political statement, I submit to you it's un-American, and that's certainly something that needs to be fought with the military. That's my opinion. And we will revisit the whole idea of landmines later. I know it's against the Geneva Convention, so you might as well use chemical. That's my opinion. So, nonetheless, we had a great show last week with Dr. Atru out on the story behind the story. You can see us there or listen to us. We have a simulcast this week as well of that show. It's 7 p.m. Pacific on Fridays. That's 7 p.m. Pacific, Friday night. Tune in. That's the story behind the story at revolution.radio, Studio B. Also, we'll still get we're still looking for news for Redfoot, Alex Studer. His site, labvirus.com, is right there. It is a wealth of information, and of course, we always plug his site. So with that, folks, I just want to thank you for coming in. Do vote. Vote. Please go out and vote just for entertainment. Go meet some NPCs. Mingle. But go ahead and click the panels below, whatever we do with the Twitter and all of that stuff. And we will see you very, very soon. Thanks again to Twitch. Godspeed, folks. Go out and vote.